So we just had some news released by Tom Pelissero that the Packers have picked up kicker Brayden Narveson off of waivers from the Tennessee Titans, kicker out of North Carolina State, undrafted free agent this year, initially picked up by the Titans. The Titans still have Nick Folk, and so they released Narveson, and the Packers decided to bring him into Green Bay. And we have watched this Packers kicker battle all offseason long. We saw them bring in Greg Joseph to compete with Anders Carlson. I think the Packers probably had a hope that Anders could improve and get to a place where he panned out as a draft pick, being drafted in the 6th round in the 2023 NFL Draft. But yesterday, the Packers made the decision to cut ties with Anders Carlson. A little over a year after drafting him, he had not improved, very inconsistent in his first year in the NFL as kicker. He finished the preseason missing a 32-yard field goal, and I think that is what sort of ended it for him in his time here in Green Bay. And Greg Joseph, you look at training camp, you look at preseason, he was worse than Anders Carlson when you look at field goal percentage. And so I was hoping the Packers would try to find a kicker out there. Wasn't sure who would be potentially available, but with certain teams that did have 2 kickers, there was a chance that lots of those guys would release the second kicker, and they decided to bring in Brayden Narveson. There hasn't been any news up to this point about Greg Joseph, whether or not he's going to be released or what's going to happen there. Will the Packers stick with 2 kickers? Not sure about that right now. But let's look at Brayden Narveson and his stats during his time in college. So during his time in college, he was in college from 2018 through 2023. That's what it shows here on Wikipedia. He started kicking his first year in 2019. But all in all, in his career, he was 71 of 91, which is a 78% field goal percentage. He was 100% on extra points, which is awesome. Didn't miss any during his time in college. And if we look at that field goal percentage, 78%, if you compare that to NFL kickers last year, about middle of the road, around 15th among kickers, was about 85%. Anders Carlson last year was at 81.8%, which was 25th in the NFL. Greg Joseph was at 82.6% for his career, and so 78% isn't great. But the thing is, when you look at these college kickers, lots of them take big jumps when they get to the NFL for whatever reason. You look at Greg Joseph, his college percentage, field goals made was 69.5%. It has jumped to 82.6% in the NFL. You look at Anders Carlson, his college field goal percentage made was 71.8%. That jumped to 81.8%, so 10% better in his first year in the NFL. So I would assume that maybe with coaching and tips and tactics like that, they make some improvement coming to the NFL. And so he was much better in college than Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph, which is interesting. And if we look at his preseason and how he played, he went 6 of 7 this preseason. His only miss was a 58-yard field goal, and he made a 59-yard field goal. So he was pretty consistent during the preseason. And if we look at his kicks from 40 to 50 yards during college, 26 of 32, which was 81% from 40 to 50. You look at Anders last year, he was at 50% from 40-plus yards, and Greg Joseph was at 50% from 40-yard field goals. So all in all, I would say his numbers from college are really, really good, especially when he's 81% for 40-yard field goals, 40 to 49 yards. And last year, Anders and Greg were at 50%. Greg Joseph was 73% in his career from 40 to 49 yards. So I think that this signing gives me a lot of hope, a lot of optimism. We'll have to see what happens here if the Packers stick with Greg Joseph, if they release him. But I think the best chance here is to let Brayden Narveson be the kicker. I say just try it, see what happens. If he struggles a ton, okay, maybe move to Greg Joseph if you don't release him. But I like this pickup. I think it was necessary. The Packers have struggled at kicker, and they may have found their guy here. This is definitely has been one of the weakest spots on the Packers roster, and now they may actually have found a guy in Brayden Narveson. So we'll keep an eye on this and see what happens going forward. But if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe. You can also follow me on X at LukeBeller3.